So what we're going to do now is talk about how continuous auction markets work and how market participants access these markets. Remember, a continuous auction market is a market for a security that is very, very liquid, has very low search costs because there's always people who are looking to buy and always people who are looking to sell. And there isn't a lot of information asymmetry associated with the asset, so I don't need to worry about a dealer who is going to have some reputational capital to recommend a good one for me. And we see that with corporate bonds, in which there's many, many issuers, and muni bonds, when there's even more issuers. We can rely on a dealer to actually have solved some of this information asymmetry and tell us whether or not this is a good bond or a bad bond, but we don't necessarily need this with stocks because there are fewer of them. So I have these different market types, these different order types of how people access these markets. And there are two main types. The first is a market order. And what this order has is a direction, i.e. buy or sell, and a quantity, the number of shares, but there is no price. What you are saying is if I wish to buy at the market price, I want to pay the lowest available price. Which is going to be the lowest asking price. And if I wish to sell at the market, and I want to sell 100 shares at the market, then I am willing to sell at whatever the highest bid is, whatever the best possible price I can get. A limit order, and so the two types of orders, the first is called a market order, and there I just say the direction, buy or sell, and the quantity. But a limit order tells the direction, buy or sell, the quantity, number of shares, but now also the most that I am willing to pay if I am buying, or the least I am willing to accept if I am selling. I'm happy to pay less, but the most I'm willing to pay is the limit, and I'm happy to accept more, but the least I'm willing to accept is the limit. And so the limit order includes the most you are willing to pay and the least you are willing to accept. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at a limit order book. And what this is limit orders that have been placed to the market as part of this continuous auction, meaning that someone's willing to pay $18.34, someone's willing to pay $18.33. These are auction prices. Someone's willing to sell for $18.36, $18.37. These are limit orders that have been placed into the market but have yet to be executed. And so the limit order book is the list of limit orders that have yet to be executed. Remember that market orders are executed immediately because they're just going to take whatever the best price is. But limit orders are going to wait until you get the price that you're willing to pay. So the limit order book is the accumulated unexecuted limit orders. And here's an example, a snapshot of a limit order book. And the way to read this is that one person, or maybe more than one person, but the accumulation, the aggregate number is 200. Someone is willing to pay $118.34 for 200 shares of the stock. And now maybe it's two people who are each willing to pay 100. We don't really know, but this is the total amount. And we refer to this as the bid size, 200. Someone is willing to pay $18.34 for 200. Someone else is willing to pay $118.33 for 700. And again, this could be one person, 7 different people. We don't really know. But since $18.34 is higher than $18.33, this person has price priority. $18.32, there's 900 shares available that wish to be purchased, and at 31 there's 400, and at 30 there's also 400. And so this is the limit order book, and we can see each of these prices and then the size. On the other side of the limit order book are people who are interested in selling their stock. And here we can see someone is interested in selling at $18.36 and they want to sell 300 shares. $18.37, 300 shares, $38, 300, $39, 500, and $40, 500. And this book would be a lot deeper. We're only looking at the first sort of 5 different prices on each side. And the top row of the limit order book is going to tell me the best bid, which is $18.34, and the size, which is 200, and the best ask, which is $18.36, and the size is 300. And so we would characterize this market as having a 2-cent, 36 minus 34, bid-ask spread. And this is the cost of buying for 36, selling for 34. Buying and selling immediately would cost me 2 cents. And so this is the bid-ask spread. And now let's look at what happens to this book when different types of orders are entered into the market, because this is what happens. The market opens, the limit order book is populated by people who are interested in buying and selling at different prices, and then as new orders come in, as new orders are submitted, the limit order book changes. So immediately, if someone is interested in paying market for 500 shares, one quick thing, whenever you're dealing with these markets, on the buy side, you always do price, then quantity. And on the sell side, you always do quantity, then price. And this is just a way for traders to communicate with each other by mitigating errors. And so when you're buying, it's always price and quantity. When you're selling, it's always quantity, then price. So we're going to pay market, whatever the best price is for 500 shares. So let's look at the book. I can see that if I'm going to pay the best price, the lowest price, I'm going to pay $18.36 for 300 shares. I want to buy 500, so I'm still 200 short. And so I'm going to pay $18.37 for 200 more. And so I can see that the way the limit order books, this limit order goes away and everything else shifts up one. $18.37, there used to be 300 on offer. Now there's only 100. And so I can see the shift in the limit order book. Next, what happens if someone submits an order to sell 200 shares for $18.36? Here's how this works. The priority, who gets to sell first, is a function of price. Whoever is willing to sell at the lowest price gets to sell first. And so if I'm willing to sell for $18.36, or you're willing to sell for $18.36, you step in front of all of the $18.37 people. And so these all shift down, and $18.36 then becomes the best price. If two people are willing to pay the same or sell for the same, then time becomes the priority. Whoever placed the order first gets to execute first. So what happens to the book if it's here and someone submits a pay $18.37 for 250 shares? So now they're willing to pay $18.37, which means they're happy to pay less, $18.36, and so they get all 200 shares for $18.36. And they get another 50 shares for $18.37, and so half of this size goes away, and this entire line goes away, and we see it shift up again. And so remember, market orders and limit orders, as they come in, are executed against the standing limit order book. And this is what happens. This is how trades occur. And whenever it is the case that the bid equals the ask, or the ask equals the bid, in this particular case, someone was willing to pay $18.37. They stepped in front of the $18.34s, and $18.37 was greater than $18.36 and equal to $18.37. And so for an instant, the bid equaled the ask. We had an exchange. And now we're back to a 3-cent spread, and we just wait for the next order to come in. Let's talk about some additional order types. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. There's other order types than this. But what we're going to talk about is something called a stop loss order. And the way a stop loss order works is this. Let's assume that I just bought the stock for $118.36. So I executed this order and I paid $118.36 or $118.37, and now I'm long the stock. I've just bought the stock to go long. Remember, buy and sell are actions, long, flat, and short are positions. So I bought to go long, and what I'm interested now is placing an order that if it goes down to say 110 from 118, I was wrong and I want to sell. But if I place an order that says sell for 110, well, the stockbroker, my brokerage firm, is going to look at this and say, you want to sell for 110? I can get you a 118. You're done. But I don't want to sell for 118. I want to sell for 110 only if it trades to 110. And so I place a limit order at 110, but I designated a stop loss limit order. And a stop loss limit order says that I only want to sell for 110 if it trades at 110, as opposed to just selling at 110, which should be executed right away. And so I can place an order. I can say stop loss limit 110. And this goes in a special place. It only enters the limit order book if the stock trades down to 110. And I can also place an order that says, okay, I want to sell for 110, a stop loss limit order, If it's the case that the stock price goes up, if it goes to 120 and then to 130, well, I want to move that 110 higher and higher and higher. So at 118, I want to sell for 110, but if it gets to 128, I'd like to sell for 120, and if it gets to 138, I'd like to sell for 130, and so I'd like to have a moving limit or a moving stop loss. And that can either be a dollar amount below the current trade, or it can be a percentage below the current trade. The other thing I might do is if I just bought the stock for 118.37 and I'm now long at 118.37, I could place the stop loss below at 110, but then I can also place a sell above at 130. And so the stock is at 118.37. I just bought it there. I can place a sell stop below at 110, or I can place a sell order above at 130. And if one of these orders executes, if I sell at 130, then I want to cancel the sell stop below at 110. And if I cancel if the 110 sell stop below is executed, I want to cancel the sell above at 130. And so I would designate these two orders as OCO, or one cancels the other. And by custom, any order that I submit into the limit order book is a day order. It gets the limit order book gets wiped clean when the market closes in the afternoon. I can designate an order as GTC, or good till canceled, and it no longer is a day order. And the way this works is when you log on to your brokerage site and you say you want to trade a stock, you're going to get a drop down menu, and it's going to have this plus many other order types available to you. So to recap, let's assume that I buy shares for $118.37. I'm now bought to go long, and if the price goes up, I want to sell. If the price goes down, then I also want to sell, and so I can place two orders. One is a sell at 130, and that just ends up down here in the limit order book, really far down at 130, or I can place a sell stop below at 110, and that's, since it's designated a sell stop, it doesn't get executed until the price goes to 110, and I can have both of those orders be OCO, meaning if one is executed, it cancels the other, and they can be GTC, good till cancel. I don't have to place them in again tomorrow or the next day or the next day. They're just alive until I cancel them or one of them gets executed.